This is Will Montgomery, former Washington Redskins center.
Yo, what's good, folks? This is Trey Johnson, the headbanger, yo, and you're listening to Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, Rally? You ready for that dry heat in Arizona?
Hey, man, as long as it deals with the Commanders, I'm ready for it all. It could be Antarctic or it could be the Sahara Desert. It doesn't matter, baby. We gonna do what we gotta do. And it just so happens that our next opponent is in Arizona, so let's get it.
I'm jealous, man. First off, I didn't want to go to Arizona because of the heat. I didn't go to Tampa because it was 100 degrees. And then I've been seeing JP Finley out in Arizona all week, and he's complaining that it's 108. And I don't even know what it's going to be on Sunday when you guys are out there. But now I'm starting to get a little FOMO, man. I mean, from what I saw, Cincinnati looked amazing. And for those of you that have been reaching out to Rally and me on Twitter, Insta, whatever, asking where's the show. First off, sorry you guys, Rally coming back late, Monday night game, real world job. You'd have to record this Thursday right now. We're doing this. We didn't get to do a post-game show. So this is going to be a combo post-game and preview show. But we'd like to tell you guys, subscribe. You subscribe, you ain't going to miss a show. And if you follow either of us on socials, then you'll see what's going on. But thank you guys for listening. We know you are, because I wouldn't be getting those text messages and all the tweets and everything else. So seriously appreciate that.
Well, yeah, one of the biggest questions that we always get is, how do you afford to go to all the games? Well, I work. And so, this is a 2-day turnaround. So here we are, this game is over and I came back to work on Wednesday, Thursday, and guess what? I'll be on a plane again tomorrow morning to support the squad. So
that's awesome, man.
A brother has to work,
Yeah, you got to pay those bills somehow, man. I mean, the podcast, we've got our sponsors, Don't Sleep Energy. We need you guys to buy stuff from them using our code DMV Mess Hall. This way they know that people are listening. We know you're listening, but they're not sponsoring just for their health. So if you guys could grab some of those Don't Sleeps using our code, helps us out a ton. But before we jump into it, man, dude, Cincinnati, how was it? Someone actually threw a rally that you didn't have to do. I mean, how was that? I saw the tailgate. You guys just all kumbaya, hugging and loving up with all the Bengals fans. Spill it to me, man. What happened out there?
So shout out to Jennifer. She threw a rally. She lives in that area, and I was so happy that I could be a civilian and just have me a beer, have a burger, and not have to worry about anything. So big shout out to her, and she had a great turnout. I was actually surprised that such short notice that amount of people came out. So big shout out to Jennifer. My hat goes out to you. My hat goes off to you. The tailgate, the Bengals bomb squad was excellent. She was a part of that as well. I got to meet a lot of the Bengals fans, and they welcomed me with open arms. It, I have nothing bad to say about the city of Cincinnati. I mean, where we stayed was downtown at the Hyatt, and it was in walking distance to the stadium. And pretty much everything that you wanted to do, unless you really wanted to get outside of the city, was about a mile to 2 miles. And so, you know me, I'm used to walking 7 at the stadium, so 2 miles was nothing for me.
No,
But
that's child's play for you.
oh yeah, man, that was nothing. And I had my Commanders gear on, and everybody kept walking up to me. Now, mind you, I didn't start it, but I finished it. And so they walked up to me and said, "Who they?" And I said, "Oh, and 2." And they were like, "Oh." That shut them
That's
up real
hilarious,
quick.
man.
Yeah, that shut them up real quick, bro. Who they? 0 and 2? Oh man, I had a ball with that all weekend long. No one got upset. It was and now look at that. Who they? 0 and 3. So I had a ball with it. No one gave me any problems. It was just a great atmosphere. And I gotta tell you, so I think I told you that what stadium Dallas was like one of the loudest stadiums. Nah, bro. Cincinnati Stadium was like the loudest, man, that I've been to. I would say Cincinnati ranks up there with Dallas and New Orleans. because Dallas
Damn.
has the dome and New Orleans has a dome, and I mean my ears were ringing. Those fans were so loud, and I kind of felt like Ice Cube. And what I mean by that is I looked up, I saw the Goodyear blimp, and it said Rally Captain was a pimp. I mean, I I couldn't believe it. The Goodyear blimp. I've never seen the Goodyear blimp at a football game, but it was flying overhead, and it just felt really good. And something else that I remember that I recall in the last pod, bring it on back to me now. Bring it on back. You showed me a clip that I said we were going to win, and we did. So
You got it
it was
right.
all it was all good in the hood.
You got it right. It def was. And it's just my boy Hude, baby. He's one of pro football fans. It's actually in the Hall of Fame. I know you got a chance to meet him.
Yeah.
And he does Instagram lives or Facebook live or whatever from there. And I can hear how loud it is whenever I watch his live. I'm thinking, damn, is it really like that? But hearing you've been to every stadium but one, saying that it's legit, I believe it then, because everyone always likes to hype up their home, right? But hearing a third party coming in there, seeing how it was, and they were 0-2. Granted, they needed to win this game, but just seeing some of the stuff out there, it looked so much fun on TV. And at the end of the game, they had what was it? Scott Van Pelt was interviewing Terry McLaurin. Terry was still on the field. You had Jayden talking to Monday Night Football guys, and you could hear the Washington fans in the background singing "Hail to the Redskins." Even during the game, Washington fans, and it wasn't a blowout. I mean, the Bengals were still kind of keeping it within arm's reach, but you could still hear our fans there. I mean, hat tip to everyone that went out there, made that trip, man, because I didn't think we were going to win. I got the Commanders at 7.5 points. I thought I was going to win my bet. I thought we were going to keep it close, but zero chance did I think that we were going to go to Cincy in that game, and I was freaking shit.
Well, I have to say this. When they went down and scored 7 points, I was like, oh man, here we go. But then one thing that I said to the Cincinnati fans, you guys do realize we get the ball back. So be careful what you wish for. And then what happened? We go down and do what we got to do. And then it kept going and going and going. And they were in shock. But I got to tell you, when it was fourth down, and I made a video of it, it was fourth down, and we needed, I think, 4 yards. It was 4th and 4, I believe, when we were on like their 39, and we got that first down. Oh my gosh, the crowd was so loud, but then it got so quiet because at that point they knew that their time was basically up.
I mean, one thing on the TV, I mean, it looked unreal. The fans are going back and forth, and you could see Washington fans sprinkled throughout the crowd. Now, I never saw you on the TV broadcast, but I know where you were because watching your Insta and everything else and your pictures and everything. But you saw at one point Jayden's dad dancing in the stands, and I didn't actually know it was his dad until someone else pointed out, like on social media, because it had a shirt with Jayden on it. I just thought it was a Commanders fan that had a breaking T-shirt on. But you said you were going back and forth, jockeying with them. I did not think that we were going to be able to do that. I didn't think that we were going to have a shootout with the Bengals just because our defense wasn't going to be able to stop them. And our offense, we had 7 field goals the first freaking game. No way in the world did I think that was actually going to happen. I mean, were you surprised at what you saw? The fact that Jayden's first touchdown was to a freaking offensive lineman in the end zone? I mean, what were you thinking when that happened?
I just felt that this was going to be a game that Kingsbury was going to have to dial up and figure out a way. And sure enough, that's what happened. When I heard that 73 was eligible, you hear it all the time. And so I didn't pay any attention to it. But what made me pay attention was when he started dancing as this Q dog dance, you know, that cracked me up, man. And I got to tell you, before that, one of the things that I loved that I had never experienced before was this dark out that they do. And they pretty much kill all of the stadium lights, and then everyone has their cell phone up, and they go by the lights of their cell phone, and then what they'll do is they did a chant, and the stadium lights went half to the left, and then you made your chant when the lights came on, and they turned your side off, and then turned the other side on, and then you made your chant, and it went
Oh, that's
back and
awesome.
forth. Oh, dude, this was one of the best night experiences that I've ever had at an NFL game. And I'm not just saying that because we won the game. They had it all set up. I mean, if you can imagine half the stadium lights going off and then you cheering or making your chant, and then the other side turning that side off and the other one's turning on, and then hearing them making their chant, it was amazing, man. So my hat
It
goes off to
sounds
them
like
as
so much
well.
fun, man. I
Oh
mean,
yes,
those of you guys that don't travel to games, I mean, these are the things I'm talking about that we don't get a chance to experience just being at FedEx. I'm like, I remember when the big thing that they wanted to do when they were talking to the Washington football team fan ambassadors was, all right, we're going to try and get everyone to sing Sweet Caroline. And then I replied, a couple other people replied, like, that's a Boston thing. Why are we singing Sweet Caroline at FedEx Field? Like, who the hell's Caroline in relation to us? We're
yeah.
trying to make things up. Like, we need something that's original to us in DC. And I wish they'd bring the drum line back and throw some go-go stuff into it like they used to and just something else. But to hear them do that in Cincy, man, I saw you hobnobbing with the owners. You need to start making like a Google sheet of all the different places you're going and give them some recommendations on ways to fix the experience back at our house, man.
Well, I can only do what I can do, bro. You know what they say? You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink it. And on that note, I had a don't sleep energy drink on the plane because the game obviously ended at 11, 12 o'clock. By the time I walked back to the hotel, my plane was like the first thing smoking. So I was only able to get maybe 2 hours of sleep, 2.5 hours of sleep. Don't Sleep came through because I was hurting driving back, bro. It was rough. So shout out to those guys. Their product, it works. I'm not just saying it because they're our sponsor. I'm saying it because I use it and I'm a believer and it will keep you up. Trust and believe. But man, it was just an awesome experience. And I had some people on my Facebook timeline commented, or I read their post who went to the game. They said it was one of the worst fan experiences that they've ever had. And I'm like, how? What happened? And so apparently it involved a person in their section, or a couple people in their section who were drinking heavily. And so you know where this is going to go. And so
Yeah.
what I do realize about that person is she doesn't hold her tongue either. And so she doesn't drink anymore. So when you don't drink and you don't hold your tongue and they don't hold their
Someone else
tongue,
is. Yeah.
it's gonna be a bad experience. And so but in my section, everybody was cool. Shout out to Tim Meeks, Indianapolis fan, Mad Hatter, they were in my section, KJ, we had so many people that were in my section. And so we literally started the chorus after every touchdown and after the extra point. And so you could probably heard us getting everybody started to sing Hail to the Redskins after the score because it was awesome. And you know what? I felt like I was one of the people from Texas A&M. You know how they have those
Gotcha.
sideline
Oh, yeah.
guys who start the chant, and we started it, and I would look up, and everybody would be looking at me, and we'd be singing it together. It was an awesome feeling, man. And for everybody that's afraid to go out of town, or maybe your money isn't right, which hey, I thoroughly understand. But if you get an opportunity to come to an away game, do yourself a favor and do it, and you'll see the camaraderie that we have. I had people coming to me who said, dude, I see you on the gram, or I see you on Twitter, or it's a pleasure to talk to you and finally meet you. And I mean, we are one big extended family. So you
Oh, yeah.
won't feel left out. You'll fit right in. So I say if you can do it, pull the trigger and do it.
Yeah. this is maybe going to be the first year where I don't do an away game. I used to always at least do 2, but
What?
this year just, yeah, I mean, loot wise, I'm not able to pull it off this year. It
Gotcha.
is what it is. So I'm bummed about it. And I'm hoping to maybe get to Baltimore. The ticket situation in Baltimore is a little pricier than I was looking to pay, but
They
it's
are.
still a ways from now. Yeah, I mean, but Baltimore's good. So their fans aren't selling tickets, so prices are jacked up. But it is what I'm living vicariously through you, through all your travels, seeing Tim Meek there, Brian Hall, just all the different Washington fans out there. Pork Run, Jeff Hog Farmer, just all the guys, KJ, and it's thank you guys for representing us because we can't do that sitting back at home on the couch and knowing that we're there and that kind of win happens. I remember being in Dallas and kicking their ass for a game, just being all these other places, being in Philly when we beat Philly and they literally brought Sylvester Stallone at halftime with a Rocky theme and this and that. And, all their fans walk out crying. If you guys haven't been to an away game, there is nothing like being that visiting fan and the home team loses and their fans walk out of that stadium first and you're just waving goodbye and you're sitting there having a blast, knowing that, hey, you guys just did that and you witnessed that in person. You got to try it at least once. And I know the perfect guy if you're looking to do that. And I know you're throwing a rally out in Arizona. What are those details?
Uh, so it's going to be at this restaurant or sports bar called Backyard from 6 to 8. It's in Desert Ridge, and right now, my Insta, Twitter, Facebook groups, they've gone crazy. I think that I don't think we're gonna have as many people that we had in Tampa, but I think that we're gonna have a lot of people because people forget that out west we have a huge fan base and they are just looking to get as close to the West Coast that they can to support the team. And this is probably the closest game that we're going to get to the West that they can come to. It's going to be remarkable. Um, I'm looking forward to it. I just can't wait.
Yeah, I know it's going to be off a chain. I mean, hopefully it'll be just as crazy as Tampa was. I know the people that are going out there are going to make sure it is. But before we jump into the Arizona matchup, we didn't get a chance to give out rally chains last week. And shame on me for not bringing it up. For you, give me 2 to 3 people that get a rally chain for you this week, non-Jayden. Because obviously Jayden's, the easy one. Non-Jayden, who gets it for you?
Oh, I gotta go with I gotta spread it out. It's gotta start here. So I gotta piecemeal it out to the offensive line. The offensive line has exceeded what I thought they could do. Now, he did get a sack. He did take a sack, but it's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah.
Even the best lines, but they gave him enough time to where I could see that he was going through his progressions, his first read, his second read, even his third read. I could see that. And if I could see it live, I know you guys could see it at the game. So the chain is broken down to all the offensive line members because they get to get the chain. Now,
Before you jump
uh-huh.
to the next one, this is actually what DQ had to say about the offensive line.
Just overall, this offensive line has probably outperformed expectations. How do you think your front five's doing?
I was pleased with the offensive line in last week's game. We thought, we'd have some chances to hit it big on the run. We did early with Austin. We felt maybe there was some more that we left there, but by and large, I really feel their connection inside. I feel that from Badass. I feel it from Nick. If you'd been on the sideline, next series, next one, when you have those long drives, those big fellas, they like that, where they get more time to go put their hands onto people. And the more of those that we do, completions and runs that are over 50, that's good for us. And that's what we're usually aiming for. And so we hit that mark this weekend.
And piling on, man, the offensive line, just, dude, they were freaking phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
You still got Lucas and you still been splitting, but I was concerned Kingsbury leaving them on an island going up against who the hell is that guy's name? Hendrickson, right? And we talked about it earlier in the preview pod. You got to double team them. You got to give them some help. You got to have a backer, not back. You got to have a tight end out there. You got to have a running back hitting. But they isolated them from time to time, and they were kind of alone against them. And dude, they held up, right? They just definitely they had a lot better game than I thought. Looking at the PFF grade, Allegretti ended up getting an 87.8 pass blocking. Cosmi got an 82.1. Lucas, 79.9. Wiley, 78.3. And Tyler Badass had a 76.5. Right. Coleman ended up getting a 55.6. I think it's because he ended up giving a sack towards the end of the game.
Right.
But this offensive line, man, it was a huge concern leading into the season. Offensive line and secondary. This O-line has proven that they're able to stand up. And Hendrickson was one of the best pass rushers over the past couple of years. And granted, he wasn't in the entire game, but no matter what they threw at him, they were able to handle it. And I thought we were going to have to run that game to win that game, and we did the opposite, right? And maybe that's because we lost Eckler. And did you know he got a concussion in the game? Because I kind of wanted to text you to let you know that that's what happened, because I figured you weren't getting updates. But, I mean, that's by doing it in the air, not on the ground, which is the complete opposite of what everyone said we were going to have to do. They said we were going to have to ball control and keep it out of Burrow's hands. We kept it out of Burrow's hands, but we did it through the air, which I am shocked, man. So yeah, I'm not surprised that part of your rally chain's going to that O-line.
Oh yeah. And one goes to Eckler, and I hope that he has a speedy recovery with this concussion, if there's such a thing. I hope that he's just taken back, and whatever you have to do during a concussion, keep your eyes closed and maybe in the dark or whatever it is. I hope that he's doing it to the fullest so that he can, first heal, and then second, he can get back out there. Third, I gotta give it to Scary Terry. He got his man during this game, and I got 2 honorable mentions. Actually, I got 3 honorable mentions, Ted. That's
you get me 6 people now. All right.
Hey, man. When you play good, you gotta reward everybody. So I gotta give Ertz honorable mention. I gotta give McCaffrey honorable mention, and I have to give, and forgive me, he came in for Ertz. He was cold as ice. Hadn't played the whole game, basically, maybe for special teams. And he came in and made the key block, which allowed Jayden to be able to throw that last pass to Scary Terry, the running back.
McNichols. Yeah, McNichols. Yeah, it was a heck of a freaking hit, man. I mean, that play. So I'm sitting here, I'm at home, and I got my notebook, right? And I'm taking notes for the game, and I'm sitting here. We had to take a timeout. There's 2 minutes, 15 seconds left in the game. It's 3rd and 7 in the 4th quarter. So we just wasted our last timeout. Coming in after that timeout, next thing you know, there's 10 men on the field. And you see, and this was on TV, Jayden's freaking out. I don't want to say freaking out, but he's like, come on, let's go. McCaffrey was late running onto the field. He didn't even know the play, right? It's 3rd and 7. Meanwhile, in the beginning part of this drive, we ended up getting 2 penalties. We hadn't had penalties the entire game. Ended up getting 2 penalties. And next thing you know, Jayden got sacked. So it was 2nd and I want to say close to 20. We're now down 15, to 3rd. We're now down to 3rd and 7 at that point. And you just took a timeout. There's no excuse for a player to come back on the field late after you take a timeout. So the clock is ticking down and you can see it on TV. I'm like, let's go. We have no more timeouts to call. And you also can't call back-to-back timeouts. So what the hell is going to happen? McCaffrey just lines up. Probably doesn't even know where the hell he's supposed to go. And next thing you know, it's that cover 0 play right to Terry. But for those that didn't see it, McNichols steps right in that hole and just almost, remember like Goldberg from WWE, where he would just kind of spear you and then throw you down. It looked just like that. And I'll put it in slow-mo on the YouTube for people that didn't actually see that part of the play, because everyone's looking at Jayden about to get clocked, or they're looking at Terry. But the protection that these guys gave him, it's not just the offensive line, man. These running backs eating up those blocks, it was a thing of beauty. I mean, looking at Brian Robinson, his pass blocking grade was 81.7. I mean, that's a freaking running back. That's his pass blocking grade. So it was awesome, man. I'll let you slide with the honorable mention there, because he definitely deserved it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. See, I wasn't going to steer you wrong, bro. Come on, man.
I hear you. I hear you.
Give the
So,
captain a little leeway, all right?
hey, you got the win right. You get some leeway this week. For
Well,
me,
thank you.
the coaching staff, they get a rally chain from me because they knew that they weren't going to be able to contain this Bengals offense. They know that our secondary is bad, but going back and watching the game again in slow-mo and the all 22 view with the entire field, because when you're watching it at home, you can't see the entire field. It is what it is. But you could tell that they were playing a high cover two shell, basically a Tampa two, where they had two safeties up top. So they were giving them all the underneath stuff, which was frustrating if you didn't realize what they were doing. They were letting them dink and dunk their way down the field. Granted, it sucked because it was sometimes 10 plus yards a pop. But once it got to the red zone, it tightens up. They don't have all that room. So Joe Witt's defensive scheme, other than Sandra still being one-on-one against Jamar Chase, which never should have happened, other than that, to me, their scheme was awesome. And the other part was Kingsbury. He called one of the most beautiful games I think I have seen from an offensive coordinator on this team in maybe a decade. I mean, Kingsbury was freaking phenomenal. And this is actually what DQ had to say about Cliff. And I want to get your words after that.
Yeah, I thought Cliff called a great game. As I'm listening through it all week, all the different looks, the things we'd have to go through, especially down as we got work into the red zone. But we knew the third down in the red zone was going to be a really big part of this. But I thought he and the staff and the guys really had a very clear understanding of what we would have to do. And, having those moments come up where you have to take your shot and deliver, they weren't going to miss it.
So did you say anything to the Bengals fans about our college-style offense during the game in the stands?
No, I didn't say anything. I just said, that's my quarterback. I said, that's my rookie quarterback. I kept saying, that's my rookie quarterback doing damage, just annihilating you guys. And they were like, yeah, wow, And then people were like, man, but what they were trying to do is they were trying to compare because he came from Joe
LSU.
came from LSU, and so they were trying to say, well, of course the lineage is from LSU, and I was like, I don't want to hear it. So yeah, I didn't dog him out too much, man, because one thing that I learned is sometimes those words come back to bite you. So you gotta give them a little bit, but then keep it humble, because I've seen us squander a lead, and everything, all the ish that I was talking, I had to eat it, and I don't like that. So I gave him a little bit of business, but that's about it.
I've learned to not talk during the game just because of that. I will turn around the second the fat lady sings and that clock strikes 000 and give them an earful. But during the game, no hablo inglés. All right, I'm just sitting there staring straight forward or talking to the person that I'm with at the game, but I'm not going to give you any peace of mind at that point. And it reminds me of that Bears game you and I were both at, and I was getting like verbally abused by the Bears fans behind me, like some racial stuff getting thrown at me. And the second the game was over, I turned around just to let them have it. By the grace of God, they weren't there, because I probably would have got myself in trouble with some of the stuff I was about to say. But they had already left at that point, and we ended up winning that game. Granted, it was an ugly-ass game, but we ended up winning that game, and they probably wanted to beat traffic or go get another hot dog, wherever the hell they get out there in Chicago. But, man, to me, we talked about at the beginning of the season, this coaching staff gets you an extra 3 wins from last year just because of the staff. And this, to me, was a coaching staff win. They had them prepared to go into this game and figured out what they needed to do to win. They hid our deficiencies. And then on top of it, it doesn't help or doesn't hurt when you got a kid that has literally more touchdowns and incompletions. I mean,
Isn't that something?
I did not see this coming from Jayden. He has improved from the Tampa game to the Giants game. He improved the Giants game from the first half to the second half after getting that wind knocked out of him. There is zero chance I saw this big a jump from that Giants game to this Monday night game. I mean, did you expect it, or were you shocked?
I'm not going to say I expected it. I'm going to say that we all feel that the kid has it in him. just from what I've seen through training camp up until from the short preseason that we had to this point, um, we all knew that something was there, and so I like you said, I think this goes to the coaches as well because they didn't throw everything on the young man. I'm not going to call him a kid. I'm going to call him a young man. They didn't throw everything on the young man at once. You could see the progression that they've been giving him, and when they feel that he has taken that next step, they'll give him more bites at the apple, and that's what I saw. They saw a trust in him and said, you know what, we know he can do this, or we feel he can do this, so it's time to make it happen. And I think that each week they're going to add more to it. It's like Thanksgiving dinner. You may start off with turkey and mashed potatoes, but then you want some sweet potatoes. You want some cornbread. You want some mac and cheese. And
Yeah,
so
I'm getting
all
hungry.
this stuff is slowly starting to come together. Once again, Ted, I told you, I see the pieces of the puzzle, and they are coming together. It's just
Yeah,
now we got to get them together on the other side of the ball.
I hear you.
You
I
know.
hear you. I mean, so when I was on Fox 5 this week, my man Easy Street said the same thing. I'm going to push back a tad, but yes, I agree with you and Easy that they're opening it up more. But to me, I'm recognizing some of the play calls that they're making in this game, and they also made the same ones in the Tampa game. I think the difference is Jayden is seeing it more, right? He's not seeing the pressure and just tucking and running. And he's also trusting his offensive linemen to block for him and give him time. I mean, we all talked about that Tampa
Mhm.
game, 16 rushes, he felt a little bit of pressure and he just ran. That's the kid's first game in the freaking NFL. It is what it is. But you saw him settle down in that second half of the Giants game, that game-winning drive hitting Noah Brown right down that seam. And to me, he's just more comfortable now, and he's seeing stuff that was there previously that he maybe missed during film session and realized, damn, I missed that. I missed that. And now Cliff is starting to call it. And it's freaking amazing. And this is actually what DQ had to say about Jayden's performance.
Third game in the NFL, that level of success, does any of this surprise you?
I mean, yeah, yes and no. Yes, because obviously it's something new to me as I continue to journey in my rookie year. But also just knowing the aspect, I put in the work. And what's done in the dark will always come to the light. So I just know that I'm prepared for these moments week in and week out. I'm just got to go out there and play football and execute.
My bad. That's Jayden talking about Jayden. But it's just, he's so humble, right? He talks about glory to God and talks about his teammates and makes sure they all get the love because he's the one in front of the mic. He's the one on camera. But none of this is possible without them. If you've ever been to my tailgate, I make sure that I shout out all my brothers and sisters behind that line that are busting their ass or volunteering because none of this happens without them. And I'm not trying to
Right.
compare myself, but there are so many people that it took to get this done. But fact of the matter is, Jayden was the rookie of the week the prior week. He was the NFC Offensive Player of the Week this week. Guess what his PFF grade was? I didn't even know that this was possible.
What was it?
95.9. And I get it's out of 100, but
Wow.
I've never seen numbers this high before, right? 0 turnover worthy plays. His passing was a 95.5. His running was a 77.4. I mean, it's just when he broke that linebacker's ankles, it's just
Whoopsie.
we're
Yeah.
never out of it anymore, man. And that's what this feels like, that he turns a bad play into a good play and he's hanging in that pocket now as long as he possibly needs to let other guys get open. And if they're not, then he's going to make someone look foolish. And he does know how to slide, dude. I jumped out of my seat on my couch. I'm like, look, he did it. And the wife is staring at
Yeah.
me like, calm down, calm down. But man, we are allowed to have nice things here in DC. And it's just, I'm not trying to get overly excited because I need to see it consistently. But we know his ceiling or what it can be. And I got text messages from a bunch of Bears fans saying, damn, we took the wrong guy.
I was gonna say, man, at work, I got people who are, various teams, and they're like, dude, we wish we had your quarterback. And I was like, well, keep on wishing. Keep on wishing because it ain't gonna happen. And so that brings me to something that I think we've said it, and I think we can really put it to rest. His jersey is like one of the number one selling jerseys that's out right now. And what goes behind a number one selling jersey is his name, but what name is on the front of that jersey? And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
So it ain't going back,
nah,
especially if this continues up. This continues, and I gotta say if, because we don't know what the future holds.
nah,
But
we don't know.
yeah, if this continues, what's on the front of the jersey will stay the same. So we can move on to the next topic.
We are the
I mean,
Commanders.
I was on Fox, right, just talking about this. I'm like, this was the beginning of the Commanders era in my mind, right? Okay, the name changed on 2/2/22. I get it. But you had Rivera stink all over that thing. You still had the prior ownership all over that thing. So people weren't jumping on board. I'm seeing more and more gear around town. I mean, you tell me, you're going to these away games. Are you seeing more and more gear at these rallies? Obviously, there's still going to be a mix of people. I love Tim Meek. He's never going to rock Commanders gear. That's just Tim, right? But
Yeah.
there are other fans now that I'm starting to see them rocking the new gear, and I'm not
Oh yeah.
surprised, man.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. I was shocked to walk around Cincinnati and see the amount of Commanders gear. Like you said, there will always be the sprinkle name, and I understand it's not a big deal. I got you. Well, actually, Tim did have on a Commander's hat, so he said he did not rock it. But if I'm not mistaken, he had a Commander's hat on.
I'll
So
have to pull up
that
a picture.
turn
But yeah.
turn backwards. But
So he
I
had his
want to say it was.
DQ look going.
Yeah, turn backwards. I want to say it was Commander's hat. I could be wrong, but I thought it was. And if I'm wrong, hey, Captain will eat crow. I got no problem with that. That's one thing about me. If I'm wrong, I will say that I'm wrong. But if I'm right,
Oh,
okay.
we'll hear about it. I know
That's
you'll
right.
let us know. I know you'll let us
That's
know
right.
if you're right, just like you were this past week.
That's
But
right.
it just kid keeps doing what he's doing. It's fun to watch. I'm walking around Bethesda in my Ronald McDonald outfit again. So every time we win, I'm bringing back the gold pants. So
Go
I'm walking
pants.
around Bethesda, just downtown Bethesda, wearing my gold pants, my Commander's shoes. I got a Commander's hoodie on with gold sleeves and burgundy in the middle. I mean, I look like I'm a walking billboard from Ronald McDonald, or I'm like senior management about to go to the store. But I had people like high fiving me walking down the sidewalk, right? In the past, we talked about it. I've had people look at me and just shake their head as I walk past them, right? I know you've had the same thing, and it's
Oh yeah.
changing. The vibe is changing. And I don't want to say it's all because one game, but it's because it's starting to be fun again to root on
Hmm.
this team, right? We've won games since that's been our name, but it wasn't fun. This is fun. And regardless
Yeah.
of what happens this weekend in Arizona, you can hold your head high knowing that the future's bright. I mean, were you shocked when you heard that the team was going straight to Arizona, that they weren't going back to Ashburn, and that they were going to stay out there for 6 days prior to the game?
Yes, I was. Because I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, okay, because people were asking me, well, what normally happens after a game for the players? And I said, well, they take their shower, they have a box lunch that they eat on the bus on the way back to the airport, and then they fly back to DC. And I was saying, man, I'm sure that the people are going to be lined up at Commander's Park waiting for them because people do that after
Yeah,
they
I used to
land.
be one of them. We used to
And,
get text messages saying the team is this many hours away or this many minutes away. And we'd be sitting at the guard gate with signs just waiting to cheer them on. Didn't matter what time they came back.
right. And so when I heard, nope, they're going to Arizona, I said, wow, never before would that have happened. It just wouldn't have, and I can surmise why it wouldn't have happened, but I'm not going to go there. The fact is,
I'll
it's a
say
new
it.
regime. It's a new regime, and they looked out for their players.
Yeah. I mean, I remember hearing that Rivera wouldn't fly out until later on in the afternoon, the day before a West Coast game, because he wanted the guys, he didn't think that the time change would really affect him that much. He didn't want them to get there early. This is a complete 180 from that. I mean, the guys have been there. They got in at Tuesday at 3:30 in the morning in Arizona time. So 6 something back in DC, back in Ashburn time. And they've been out there since. And this is actually what DQ had to say about that setup and if it slowed him down at all.
Absolutely the same process. And so the team came out early to set up our servers, video, all the stuff so we could just take Virginia, put it down in Arizona, and go play. And man, we're really fortunate. The people here at Arizona State have been great, allowed us to, have access to, the practice field. So we're ready to go.
Did you think about bringing the 70-degree temperatures too, or?
No, we did not think about that. But fortunately, we can go indoors and outdoors here, so we'll mix it around. But the main thing was to get the guys here early, John, to get acclimated as quick as we can, as opposed to having to go back, get there late on a Tuesday, and then turn around and come back on a Friday. So the early part of the week is sometimes harder when you do that, but the latter part of the week is where you gain. And so we've done it a number of times, and I really like the process that we do go to get ready.
But I know you didn't say it, but to me, this is the difference with new ownership, right? There's a Washington Post article that I've referenced multiple times. They did not have a changing station in the bathroom for the players' wives to change their kids. You had players changing children, their diapers, in the stands with another player's wife holding up a towel so random fans in the stands can't see their kids' bare ass. That's how bad it was. And when they asked Mrs. Snyder how much it cost, it was less than $200, and they wouldn't put that in a stadium for your players. I mean, new ownership paid for the entire team to stay at Lansdowne Resort. And I'm sure they got a discount because Lansdowne's getting their name mentioned. I didn't even know it was a place. So I'm sure people are trying to stay out there now and do this. But they shipped the servers out to Arizona. The entire team's been out there. Like all this equipment that came out there. The only thing I ever saw or heard of Snyder shipping out early was those stupid heated benches. And we saw how that turned out. Right?
Yeah. Copycat off of what Dallas did. And I know they say it's a copycat league, but no, you don't need to copycat that. And it didn't work. So
no, Benchgate was ridiculous.
Set your own, be your own trailblazer. And I'm happy to see that, as I've always said, the adults are in the room and the adults are running the organization. And it shows. I think the players are vibing to the ownership as well. I think that they see that it's a new regime, and the defense is going to catch up with the offense. I honestly believe it will, because they made changes again. Okay. And because of that, they're still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to toggle it together like a mixologist. And once we get that perfect mixture, look out. Once again, it's a long season. It's not a sprint, So just keep everything in perspective. If we can continue, and I know I said if, but you have to use that word. But if we can continue to run the offense the way that they're running it, we won't be stopped, man.
I hear you. It's not sustainable. Let's be realistic. Tress Way is joking around that he's icing his hands after games because he's holding the ball too much on extra points and field goals. Right? He was on with Grant and Danny talking about how he's going to petition the NFL to change his position to punter/holder because he doesn't actually punt the ball anymore. Right? And Chick Hernandez is asking Dan Quinn during press conferences, does Tress owe you guys some money back because he hasn't actually punted in 2 weeks? Right? I love all of the joking. It's not realistic to think that this is going to continue to happen. We are going to punt the ball. But hat tip to Dan Quinn and Kingsbury for going for it on 4th down when we needed to. And they did that not because Tress was hurt. but because the situation called for it and it made sense. And you know that you're going to get into a shootout with this high-powered Bengals offense, and you can't afford to not put points up. But
Yeah, every
eventually,
possession. Yeah.
every possession matters. But eventually, we are going to punt the ball again, right? Eventually, this offense isn't going to be able to go down and score on every possession for 2 games straight. It's just not realistic. But the way the defense is getting gashed is what's driving me a little crazy, right? Up the middle on the run. I mean, teams are averaging just a ridiculous amount on us. And I know the secondary is a problem. We all talked about it heading into the season, but I did not expect John Allen, Daron Payne, and this defensive line to be as bad as they are. Right now, they are 29th in total defense. They're 31st in passing defense, and they're 17th in rushing defense, right? 32nd in third down defense. I mean, how many teams are in the NFL? You can't go lower than 32nd.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're just damn lucky that this kid is putting us on his back. But that's a lot of pressure for one young man. Even though he looks like he's up to the challenge, if we truly want to contend, and Easy was talking playoffs on TV, zero chance I'm going there. But if we really want to contend and be realistic about it, they got to do something. And Forbes coming back this week doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies that that's the something they're going to do.
Coming back and playing is 2 different things.
Well, has he played? I mean, I'd love to know his PFF
coming back,
grades
coming back, being able to come back and playing are 2 different things. So I don't know. We'll see. But once again, these guys know what they want to do and how they want to do it, how they want to deploy it. So I'm gonna sit back, put my fan hat on, and take my coach's hat off, and let them do what they need to do. And my job is to cheer them on, regardless of what they do, and to get the other fans ready to cheer them on.
I hear you. That's why you're the rally captain. For me, and I did a show with Big Doug and George Carmi. They got a podcast out, the Big Doug and George Carmi show. Talked about our show on their pod. Talked about my look at being a fan is congratulate, applaud when they do well, and when they do bad, hold them accountable, right? And that I know that that's not how some people want to be. They want to, if the team pisses on their leg, they can say, "Oh man, it's raining outside." No, you're pulling an R. Kelly right now. You're peeing on my leg, right? But it will get better. I am just concerned that it's a lack of talent. And Peters is realizing that, okay, this is what I have to focus on in the draft next year. I've got to figure out defensive line, right? Johnny Newton played a lot more snaps this week and had his best week, right? His grade was a 59.9, right? And he's not there for as many snaps as Daron and John, but he still had higher grades than them and made more out of it when he was there. So, I mean, it's just things like that. I feel that Johnny was taken because he slipped in the draft, and John is on a contract that is basically not friendly to him anymore. He's got no guaranteed cash left. And I almost feel that John Allen might get traded before the year is over at this point because he's not producing. And we'll see how it goes. But I hope that the offense can keep this up. But being realistic, this defense they got to do something.
Yeah, it's time for a defensive stand on their front. And it's sad when you have people who we become attached to players, and we like John Allen, we like Daron Payne, and then all of a sudden, hypothetically, next week they're gone. Like we like Sweat, and we like Chase as well. They were gone, and we're like, what are we doing here? And so we're seeing the maturation of what you said, a possible trade, because unfortunately they're getting paid a lot of money, and they're getting gashed. And I don't know what happened, what mind state is going on. But I remember back in the day, or not back in the day, but just last year, hey, they made contact, they shucked the block, and they tackled the ball carrier. Now it's like the line is just positioning them out of the way, and they're just running right up the middle. And I'm saying to myself, these are the same guys. So it's either a technique thing or it's, you know what, I got mine. What are you going to do about it? You can't do anything about it. I'm getting paid and I'll go through the motions. Whereas I thought that we had gotten rid of, and I hope it's not the latter, but I thought that we had gotten rid of everyone who was just going through the motions just to get a check.
John doesn't come off like that. I mean, to me, he's got too much pride, right? But at a certain point, I remember T-shirt, the Alabama wall, right? John and Duran, teammates coming here from Alabama, and next thing you know, they're on the same team together, lined up beside each other, brothers. And then obviously, the whole incident in Dallas, we won't even get into that. But it's a bad look right now, and they're not doing anything to help this team. So you're only as strong as your weakest link. Well, guess what? They are part of our weak link now, right? And we'll see what happens. I didn't think it was going to be the entire defense, but to me, other than Bobby Wagner and Quan Martin, no one is really earning a paycheck. People are joking about Tress having to give some money back because he hasn't punted, but John and Duran are the 2 and number 3 highest paid players on this team. They need to give some of that paycheck back because they're not doing a damn thing. And I get they're getting double teamed every once in a while, but it's not the entire game. And when Johnny Newton's coming in and has a higher stat line than you, there's something wrong.
Well, it's almost like he has more energy than what they do. He's energized.
I mean, he is fresher. I mean, he's not out there for as many snaps, so I get that part. But
and he's trying to make a name for himself. He's playing for that new contract. He's playing for more eyes because let's face it, if what you don't do for one, somebody else will. So he's getting good tape on him, and even though I think he'll be here for the long haul, well, I like to believe that he would be. He's creating tape for other teams to say, "Boy, that Newton kid, wow, okay, if he becomes available, we're gonna snatch him." You know how it goes. So, and it could be a situation where, unfortunately, they are men, but they feel some kind of way. Just like Dotson felt some kind of way.
Who's doing nothing in Philly. And it's going to be starting this week. So we'll see what happens. But it's just, to me, this is also Peters playing chess, right? No one saw the Dotson trade to the Eagles coming. But right now, we got the better end of that deal. And I'm not saying John's going to get traded. All I'm saying is he's owed nothing next year. His contract's not guaranteed. And he does not have a cap-friendly number. You cannot have almost $50 million of your salary cap dedicated to 2 positions that are not performing. And right now, they're not performing. It's week 4. We're going to Arizona. So who knows? Things might change. But guess who can run the ball? Arizona. Guess who has a good offense? Arizona. And this ain't going to be easy. I mean, Zona is 3.5-point favorites. I got it 4.5 because the second that clock struck 0, I went to go put money down on us for this week getting the points. So, that's who I'm thinking what's going to happen. But before we jump into it, the Commanders were 28th in the power ranking last week. Oh, we just won. It was a damn convincing win. Where do you think they moved to on that list? I'll give you plus or minus 3. Plus or minus 3.
That's what I was going to ask. 20.
All right. 20 is your final answer.
20.
No, they're up at 16. Close with a plus or minus 3. We jumped up 12 spots, bro.
16.
12 spots. It says here, I'm shocked. Jayden Daniels was already among the league leaders in completion percentage at 75.5%. And that was before he completed 21 of 23 passes on Monday night in a stunningly good performance that fueled the Commanders' road upset of the Bengals. Daniels was so cool and poised all night, leading 6 scoring drives, 5 touchdowns in 6 tries, not counting kneel downs. He sprayed the ball all over, including a few gorgeous deep shots, and was a terror with his legs, rushing for a touchdown and 5 first downs, frustrating the Bengals all night. Daniels now has completed 61 of 76 passes this season, good for a fiery 80.3%. The NFL record for a season is Drew Brees, 74.4% in 2018 at 8.2 yards per attempt. It's only 3 games, but Daniels is averaging 8.7 yards per attempt so far. Just a remarkable start in which certainly looks like an offensive rookie of the year type of season early on. Oh, and the Commanders are suddenly pretty fun too. 12 spots, man. Are you surprised?
Yeah, I am. I really am. I never would have guessed it. Although I'm very happy, but I never would have guessed it. I'm shocked. But it goes back to what the kid said, or the young man said. He puts in the work, so this doesn't surprise him. It surprises the Ashburn syndrome folks because I'm surprised and I'm happy about it. My biggest thing is don't get the big head, guys. Don't start reading your press clippings because that's always been a problem. And this is a great game to come out flat because you're riding high. This next game. That's my biggest thing, man.
And they asked Jayden about that during his press conference, and his reply was, "It's just another game. This is just another game." And JP Finley and others talked about it. I mean, he has been in crazier environments at LSU, like LSU, Alabama. I mean, just big matchups down there with 100,000 people out there at that stadium, right? He has been in pressure situations. So when Jayden says it's just another game, I believe him, right? If you don't let yourself get too high, then you let yourself get too low. And I feel that that's the kind of head that this kid has. And DQ mentioned it during his press conference. In situations where it looks like it's going to be even tougher for him, his smile gets bigger. Like he salivates at the challenge that is coming to him. And he wants to be able to prove everyone wrong to a degree, right? And all those haters that, oh, Caleb's going to be rookie of the year no matter what. Caleb's going to be the best quarterback taken out of this draft. Well, guess who is doing a hell of a lot better than Caleb right now? And that's our guy. So it's 3 weeks, and I'm not trying to get overly excited, but how can you not when this kid is showing you nothing but positives? I haven't seen a negative from him yet, right? Like Kyler Murray, who we play this weekend, right? Stories about Kyler playing Madden and video games and not caring about football. Jayden's getting to the facility at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And just sitting there, first guy there, last guy to leave. You don't hear those stories about Kyler. You hear the exact opposite. It's just, it's refreshing, man.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we haven't heard this type of aspect of things for a long time, and now we're seeing it. And because we haven't felt it in such a long time, it's very refreshing, and you can't help but to feel good and sometimes put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, it's to be expected. All I'm going to say is don't get overly down on the kid if he has a bad game. This is his third one, right? Let's just be realistic about it and just understand that he ain't here for 1 year, right? And the whole Robert experiment, yes, that was 1 year because it was a gimmick offense and he's not a passer. Jayden beat them from the pocket, which is something Robert could never do. This kid doesn't need his legs to be special. And that's what has me so excited because we finally have a quarterback, but we have a true potential dual threat quarterback because we saw him use his legs and break so many ankles this past Monday. And we're going to need him to do that this week if we're going to come out of Arizona with a win, because who can also do that is Kyler. Kyler's no joke. He's averaging over 50 yards a carry each week, not 50 yards a carry, he's after 50 yards on the ground each week, and he's still throwing the ball in the air. And granted, Arizona's 1-2, but the game that they won, they put up 41 points, right? I mean, they're not a slouch on offense. Offensively, our stats look just like their stats, right? We're fourth in some, they're sixth in others. So they can put up numbers. Marvin Harrison Jr., he is no joke. And I think he and Jayden, if it goes as it is, are going to be competition for rookie of the year if it stays up that way, because Marvin Harrison's he's putting up some numbers, man. I'm worried about him torching our secondary because basically he's Jamar Chase, just younger.
Younger, yeah. And he's also a little banged up, though. Not sure if he's going to be able to play, but I know he's banged up. And just like we got
he's playing.
Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely playing this week. But yeah, a little banged up. I get, but he's going to be out there. There's no chance he's missing this game this week. And for those that don't know his numbers, he's got 3 touchdowns so far this season, 10 catches for 198 yards. I mean, he torched the Rams. And granted, okay, maybe the Rams are on a downslide, but he put up $130 on the Rams and had 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's looking good so far. And in that game, they won 41-10. So every quarterback is licking their chops when they see our secondary come to town, right? Everyone can't wait to get healthy against us. I just hope that they actually do what they need to do to calm Harrison down and calm freaking Kyler Murray down, because we talked about it last week. Burrow's not going to use his legs to gain yards. He's going to use his legs to extend plays. Kyler will not be shy to use his legs and run that ball and gain some yards and basically pull a Jayden on us.
Yeah, and when he runs, his little legs, I mean, make him look like he's going faster than what he really is. But the kid is fast. So, this week, you really have to have gap integrity. You really have to lock down your ends and you really have to have 5 rushing as 1 or 4 rushing as 1. There's no way that anybody's going to be able to try to be an individual on this game. Everybody's got to come as a team to get this little guy down because he's so fast and elusive to where he'll make a fool out of you.
Yeah, he definitely will. And Clelin Ferrell is not going to play again. He's already out. Coach Quinn ruled him out and Austin Eckler out. So that means we're going to get more Jamin Davis. We saw Jean-Baptiste get a sack. We saw, can't remember the guy's name. There were a couple sacks last week for some other guys, but there wasn't a true pass rush, if you will, that happened. But we need to get that this week against Kyler. I mean, you mentioned 4 rushing as 1. That's something that they talked about last season that just wasn't happening. I don't feel it's happening now. And if Baker was able to get away from this line, right, and they had him in their grasp, imagine what the hell is going to happen with Kyler, right? And that's what scares me the most this week, because we're going to punt. Let's be realistic. I think it's going to happen. I think Tress is going to earn his paycheck. It's just how many times is that going to happen? I don't know. But for you, the Commanders win this week. Give me 3 things that have to happen for us to actually leave and come back to FedEx Field at 3-1.
Well, this is going to be more so on the defensive side. 2 things. The front 4 have got to come together. The back half got to come together. So that's the first 2. And the third is the offensive line has got to continue to do what they've done for Jayden to make him more comfortable to get the ball out of his hand.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. My win is more so on the defense, right? If you look at the Bengals, they gained 436 yards.
Incredible.
That's ridiculous, right? If you were to tell me that the Bengals are going to put up 436 yards and have 33 points, I'm thinking we're losing that game all day long, right? But we ended up obviously pulling out that dub. I don't think we can do that again this week because, let's be realistic, as teams get more tape on Kingsbury's offense, they're going to start to adjust. And it is what it is. And guess who knows Kingsbury's offense? The Arizona Cardinals. He was their head coach for 3 years. He was successful there with Kyler, had a good run. Some of those defensive players, Budda Baker, still there. Some of the defense still knows what Cliff likes to do. We know what Kyler likes to do because Cliff obviously drafted him and was his head coach, but it goes both ways. So they're going to know some of our tendencies and vice versa, but are they going to be able to stop us? Are we going to be able to go toe to toe with these guys? I don't know. But for me, I need this defense to stop giving 3rd and shorts. I felt that it was 3rd and short every single time that the Bengals got to 3rd down. I don't think we ever really got them to a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 8. It was all manageable. And when that happens, it just gives a quarterback so many options. I need our defense to actually play up a little. And maybe Forbes coming back helps out, maybe because of his speed. They're not having to play as much zone, but I do think they're going to play a decent amount of it this week. But we can't just give up 6 yards, 7 yards on first down. It's just not possible if we want to walk out of Arizona with a win.
Yeah, this is going to come down to, I believe, who has the ball last and who has better clock management and who can honestly move the chains. That's what it's going to come down to.
Agreed. We have to have a higher 3rd down rate than they do. We've got to be more efficient on 3rd down and keep that ball and hold on to that ball. I don't care how we do it, whether it's Jayden using his legs, his arm, or B-Rob, but not having Eckler this week is going to be a huge blow because when Austin touches the ball, he's a freaking playmaker. And not that B-Rob isn't, but they're two totally different people. Man. It reminds me of, remember Teague Barber and Ron Dane, how they used to call them Thunder and Lightning?
Yeah.
That to me is what it is, right? Eckler's like Tiki and B-Rob is like Ron, just running you over, right? And we're not going to have that this week. So there's a dimension of this offense that's going to be missing. And you cannot bring someone up from the practice squad or have McNichols fill that role. So we're going to have to find other ways to move this ball down the field, let alone special teams and what Eckler's been doing, running a freaking ball back against the Giants. Granted, it got called back. But, dude, if Eckler doesn't run that second half kickoff back to the 62 yards, I think it's potentially a different game that we have, right? He gave us a short field. And they're going to have to find a way to fill that gap. And it's not going to be OZ.
Yeah. He's definitely a more shiftier type of style runner, and he's more elusive. And you can see he sets his holes up. He sets his blocks up very, very well, and he knows how to read them versus, I believe, Byron is more of a battle ram. He's gonna hit you and keeps his legs moving. Whereas Eckler, he's more of I see it. He's more precision type of running, if you will. We are gonna miss that. And like I said, I hope that he has a speedy enough recovery to where he's not coming back too soon, and he's able to get back. But I really hope so. But yeah, man, I'm still going with us. At the end of the day, I'm going with the W, baby. I'm going with us. I'm predicting this. We gotta put Kyler in his place.
So I was torn, and I wanted to take a look back at the beginning of the season, which one I picked. Because I'm not gonna lie, I picked us to lose this past week, right? And I was wrong, but I recorded all of our stats from the beginning of the season. Okay, who did I take to win this game? Who did I take to win that game? And I'm not surprised that you took us to win. So let me see who I picked earlier on the season. Before I go back and look, I think you're right, bro. I think we win this week. I think we're going to not shock the world because that was this past week. But yeah, you had us to win earlier on in the year. I had us to win. Believe it or not, beginning of the season, when we went down the schedule one by one, you actually had us losing to Cincinnati. So at one point, you changed.
It's because of what they were showing me in the beginning, in training camp and everything. But once I felt it, I said, "No, we're gonna win."
No, I'm keeping track. Just to go back and look and say, all right, preseason wise, you said 10-7. I said 7-10. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm with you, man. I think these guys are riding high. I think ownership's sending them out there 6 days ahead. They're not reading the press clippings. They're not watching all those stories and getting hyped up from this past win. It really is just another game. Now they're in Arizona. They're acclimated to the time change. Granted, it's an indoor stadium, so you're not going to worry about the heat. But they're building a brotherhood. We haven't had a true brotherhood with this team and who knows how long. And I think you're having that victory state on Sunday, man.
I truly hope so. Matter of fact, I got to make my reservations through with Chris. I got to do it. whether I show up or not. That's another thing, but I got to make my reservations to get myself prepared because it will be tasting so delicious to be able to come home possibly with 2 road game wins underneath my belt. So I hear the music playing in the background, which lets me know that we are bringing another episode of DMV Mess Hall to a close. Folks, please, we're not just saying it to hear ourselves say it. Like, subscribe, share. It goes a long way. It's almost like us winning on the field. It goes a long way. So, Tailgate Ted, Rally Captain, you rep it hard. You don't rep it at all. Deuces.